January 12th, 2011. The prequel to the hit manga Soul Eater, titled Soul Eater Not, starts serialization in monthly Shonen Gangan. The story takes place 1 year before the events of the main Soul Eater story and follows Sugumi Harudori, a 14-year-old girl who has recently enrolled in the DWMA's Not, or Normally Overcome Target class, to gain control over her newfound weapon abilities so she can live a normal life. One of the first videos on this channel was a review of the Soul Eater Not manga and anime adaptation, in which I said this.
Off rip, I'm just say I'm giving the manga a 7 out of 10 and I'm giving the anime a 4 out of 10 because the last 3 episodes are ass.
This was a lie. After having a lot of time to think on it, as well as having recently reread the manga is actually a 4 out of 10, and although we won't be talking about the anime, just for the record, I want to say that the anime is a point below that at a 3 out of 10. Today, I'm here to tell you that Soul Eater Not just doesn't work in a few different ways and why exactly that is. Before we get started, it'd be great if you dropped a like on the video for the algorithm and subscribe to see future Soul Eater content here on the channel. For the sake of simplicity, organization, and whatnot, this video will be split up into 3 sections. The good, where I talk about things I actually liked about this manga, the bad, where I discuss everything I didn't like about this manga, and what I would change, where I talk about what I would change. You get the gist. Taking place 1 year before Soul Eater gives Not a good opportunity to expand on concepts, events, and characters that are either left ambiguous or just not focused on all too much in the main series. And in very specific instances, Not does this very well, the biggest and most frequent case being the circumstances surrounding the partnership of Kim and Jacqueline. During the internal investigation and Operation Capture Baba Yaga Castle arcs, we learned that Kim has secretly been a witch hiding among everyone else, and left witch society since her Tanuki regeneration abilities directly contradict the innate destructive nature of all witches. Over the course of Not, it's shown that the relationship between Kim and Jacqueline starts off rather rough, but through Jacqueline finding out about Kim's witch roots, they start to become the incredibly close and fierce Meister weapon duo that they are in the main series. They end up becoming pretty plot relevant near the mid and end points of Soul Eater, so I think giving them some extra panel time here was a overall great decision. On a similar note, I can say much of the same for Liz and Patty, despite their appearances being slightly less frequent in Not. Given the time frame, we're exposed to a Liz and Patty almost right after being taken out of their life of crime. Their previous lives and attitudes towards the world and other people are mentioned a lot over the course of Soul Eater, but we never really get to actually see what they were like for ourselves. Seeing the twin pistols in such a more cunning, vulgar, and violent state is almost like looking at 2 completely different characters, and it serves a way to further emphasize just how much being brought to Death City and partnering with Kid changed them. On a lesser note, during the in-between chapters, or the 10 Soul Eater Jot chapters, we get some fun world building, I'm just going to classify it as world building, for Death City, such as Death City's special type of food is just regular food with the word dead in front of it, or how the kids that were born and raised in Death City are called Death Children. And it's also implied that one becomes a death child when they either have a near-death experience or just straight up cease existing while in Death City. These are fun expansions to the already incredibly unique Soul Eater world that I really enjoy. To end off this first section, I'd also like to quickly touch on the art for Not. It goes without saying that the art style, and paneling are all great since it's just Soul Eater's art style, so on a visual enjoyment level, this manga is very good in my opinion. Hi, welcome to the part of this video where I rant about this goddamn manga. I try to explain what Not feels like, but I think this tweet I made while rereading it for this video summarizes it perfectly. Soul Eater Not is a thinly veiled Yuri manga disguised as a Soul Eater prequel. The problem isn't the Yuri part. I'm sure Yuri manga are fine. I haven't really read any, but I can't imagine the entire category sucks. The problem is that it's Atsushi Yokobo writing a thinly veiled Yuri manga disguised as a Soul Eater prequel. Look, I love Atsushi Okubo and his manga. Hell, I wouldn't be making this video if I didn't, but we all know his humor can be less than desirable at times. So what do you get when you take the most unfunny, unlookatable, and questionable parts of an Okubo manga and condense them into 31 chapters? You get Soul Eater Not. A lot, and I mean a lot, of this manga is just an uninteresting love triangle between Sugimi, Meme, and Anya under the guise of Sugimi not being able to choose a Meister, and it gets really old really damn fast. Sugimi will say something, then Meme and her will start hugging or something in the corner of the page, and then Anya will get all tsundere about it, and it's just that repeated over and over again. Aside from character dynamics, I don't think any of the three main characters are that interesting. There's a panel of Anya describing Sugimi in the first chapter of the manga, and it reads, she's so, how should I say this, normal? She has no aura of personality about her. And yeah, that checks out. I think Meme is the best out of the three due to the plot twist that she's involved near the end, but it doesn't save her from having the same repeating gag throughout the entire manga despite it being unfunny after chapter 5, and I think the exact same thing can be said about Anya and her dull tsundere personality. The villain of Not is Shala Gorgon, the third Gorgon sister, and to be completely honest, she sucks, like really bad. I think the worst part about her is that in her introduction, she says, "It's time to prove that I'm the most talented of the Gorgon sisters." So now in the back of your mind, you're just comparing her to Medusa, the person who hatched a successful plan to unseal the Kishin and created Krona, a human weapon hybrid injected with black blood, and Arachne, who, let's see here, created the entire demon weapon race. Aside from comparing her to her much better sisters, Shala isn't that threatening, and her defeat at the hand of 3 Not class students in their first fight really doesn't make her case any better. The only long-lasting effect she seems to have is that she technically kills Sid, and by long-lasting I mean not that long since she turned into a zombie anyway and is only absent for an unspecified amount of time between the end of Soul Eater Not and the remedial lessons arc of Soul Eater. Another thing that bothers me is that none of the characters that originate from Not ever show up again besides Sugimi, and even then she is quite literally only in one panel. It makes it hard for me to actually care about what's going on with them, especially when characters I actually know and somewhat care about are getting panel time that makes me more interested in them in the main series. As far as what I would change, there are 2 ways I could go about this. The first route being the removal of Sugimi, Meme, and Anya entirely and focusing on the side characters, but that's kinda extreme, so we're going with the second route. Keep the story exactly the same, but 1, tone down the Yuri. If you're gonna try and fail to disguise it under the pretenses of Sugimi failing to choose a partner, then just don't do it at all. And 2, don't make your villain related to 2 of the most canonically smart and evil characters in history, or compare her to them in any way. There are only a few things about this manga that make me dislike it as much as I do. One being the constant and frankly bad fan service, and the other 2 happen to be the 2 most important factors, the main cast and the villain. If these things were tweaked even a little bit, I think it would improve Not greatly. Giving Sugimi a personality and either fully committing or getting rid of the love triangle aspect would make this story so much more enjoyable. The fact that romance is involved isn't the problem, it's the fact that it takes up so much of the story but isn't confident in itself. Even within this story, there's a better example. It's revealed that Jacqueline has a crush on Kim, and that's fine because 1, we know how this eventually turns out, and 2, that storyline knows what it is and doesn't try to hide itself all too much. Besides that, earlier I mentioned that focusing on some of the side characters was a great addition to the story, and in addition to that, I would like characters like Killick, or maybe even some of the death sides, because they're all here for some reason, to have some type of part in this story, since they are there and not used at all. To me, Soul Eater Not is a manga that fell flat in what it's trying to achieve. I mean, I would say that, but I don't exactly know what it's trying to achieve. It fails at being a true Soul Eater prequel because it's too focused on trying to be a Yuri love triangle manga, and it fails at being a Yuri love triangle manga because it's constantly being disguised as a Soul Eater prequel. The main cast is so underwhelming, and anytime there weren't already pre-established characters on the page, this manga was a slog to get through due to every scene being full of Okubo's worst writing habits and comedy. And that's it for this one.
Lately I'm feeling so cool. Yeah. Come and get a taste of the hip soul food. Spice up the animal when Neo haiku. While Soul goes to school where he slash kung fu.